I kind of try to put up the first slide of everything that we do to just set a context. So hopefully, hopefully I'm sharing my slide here as a visual. Like I was saying, I like to start out with kind of a contextual aspect of what we do, because the information exchange is important. And the whole point of what was going on is that if cannabis was a functional medicinal, which is what the state of Oregon's law initially said it was, then why wasn't it performing that way? Why was 20,000 plus patients in the Oregon medical marijuana program not just inherently healthy, especially in comparison to their non-cannabis consuming counterparts, so their non-marijuana consuming counterparts? Also, for me, I don't care if it's called cannabis versus marijuana. My background, my genetic background is from it, partially from Hispanic origins. And so the fact that marijuana is a Spanish word is not a dig to me. It was just the word. So I often will refer to things as cannabis, but I don't mean anything derogatory when I say marijuana. That is the word that part of my family used when we were addressing the issue. Anyway, so within the spectrum of operationals, from the genetic aspects and the creation of a plant genetic, which is really lending to the efficiency of the conversion of the input materials and its resilience to disease, has a lot less to do with the final product that's sitting in front of somebody. So if you think about bud being the final delivery stage that somebody can consume, at that point, the chemistry is no longer going to change. The genetics may be 20 to 30%. I use them as an example of if we were a chef, it's the type of kitchen. Kitchen definitely does not drive what you eat, because no matter if you were to take a Chef Ramsay, expert master craftsman at his trade, and put him in front of a campfire, and if I were sitting in his 3-star Michelin kitchen, which he would never let me in, I guarantee you the steak from him off of a campfire is going to be way better than mine. I probably wouldn't even know how to make it in his professional kitchen. So that's how important a kitchen is to the thing. I'm sure he likes it, be able to make a lot of money and serve a lot of people, but I guarantee you should try his steak off of a campfire, and you should not try mine. Farming, of course, is the development of those potentials and the inputs. So in wine, it's called terroir, right? It's what gives a vintage, right? So the sun and the wind and the rain and the exposure, and whether that's in a greenhouse or whether you're simulating all of that in an indoor grow, and whether you're consistent or not, that's a terroir. And so you either are constantly creating vintages or sub vintages, meaning if you harvest 3 times a year and you're an indoor thing, but you do it differently each time, then your outcome is going to be a little different. And that, instead of just being taste and sugar and Brix levels, it's the cannabinoid matrix, and that may make the difference between something that helps somebody with cancer and something that helps with epilepsy, or somebody that helps with their mood or helps with Valentine's Day. That matters, because it's not just one compound. We then break separation into 2 things. One's agriculture separation, because the mentality of somebody driving a tractor and the idea of somebody in a lab coat who's running around with a glass pipette is just 2 different minds. The person with the pipette, I guarantee you, is going to run into a pinch point and then be killed underneath a tractor. And a tractor person is probably going to break a glass pipette a lot, right? So the separation of fiber from the oleoresin is ultimately done in what we call our ag lab operations, and the purification is just done in what we call our X lab purifications. They work together. It's just 2 different mentalities, right? Past that, we then get into kind of a pharmacy type compounding scenario, because cannabis is phenomenal at lots of different things, but sometimes delivery is a pain in the butt. And so the fact is we're trying to get something topically into the person, or ingestion, or whatever that is going to be. There's sometimes cannabis can utilize beneficial assistance from other natural products and functionalities to get and to get the medicinals where it needs to go and deliver, which also is the same in regular medicine. Medicinal chemist background, I was making compounds and then purifying them, and then some of them were candidates for different studies. But once you figure out what that works, you're like, oh, you're curing AIDS. Nope. Because if I'm making a little droplet of it, there's a lot to go, right? I don't know if you've been to Africa, but it's a lot of people there. So we need train car loads of a solution. And then that thing can't be poisonous to the person. So if it is, and it needs to get into the body, then it needs to maybe be protected, or that's where delivery chemists may understand. And of course, we're always trying to shoot for a pill because people don't take injections. People don't take anything else, even inhalers. People just don't like to do anything other than take pills. And if we're trying to help them, then we got to serve them where they're at. So delivery is a really important aspect of medicine. Delivery is a really important aspect of everything, even growers, right? The stage or the form in which nitrogen appears may not be useful to the plant because it's just in the wrong form. So compounding allows us to be able to optimize delivery. Testing, ultimately, there's some tests that need to be happen both on a legal level for how things are done, but those tests really mean absolutely nothing. That's one of the reasons why they can fabricate and not have those tests, because none of that data results in anything functional that's useful at all. It was picked because people who were super high decided to say that's what they should use, and the politicians decided to believe those people. And then there was even some, especially in Oregon, which then kind of has also gone on to influence other places. But even when intelligent ideas were brought up, they got completely railroaded out of it. And when you talk to people who run testing labs, they absolutely know that their data is spurious. But hey, I had a friend of mine who owned a Napa store on the edge of one of the towns before you went into the mountains on your way over to the coast. And people would stop in and ask about the level of their blinker fluid. And so, because maybe they got pulled over. And so the big joke was, do you charge them $45 to walk out there and tap on the blinker and be like, yep, it's at the right level, because they asked for the test. I posed the same thing to a lot of the testing facilities. And the fact is that if you're going to pay $150 and then the state's going to make you do that 3 to 5 times, we're taking the money. So who cares if it means anything, because none of it means anything. So take the $500. I'm not necessarily super happy with that particular answer, but I understand what they're saying. It makes it feel like it's scientific, just like having a rotary evaporator when you in a laboratory and somebody comes and sees a big glass ball spinning and it's evaporating, and people are like, ooh, that's really scientific. He's like, yes, it's how you make macaroni. And yeah, very scientific macaroni. But it looks cool. It looks something. So people want people on paper. And I always wanted to take like a big bud into Congress and have like a bunch of like bread ties, colored bread ties that were all the way down, and then somehow demonstrate every one of the testing results of them, and then ask them, where does the test result go on this colored bread tie? And obviously nobody would ever be able to tell you, because it doesn't even just go down, there's a spiral. So it's not like it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, anyway. Next part, is of course then taking knowledge that is functional and maybe doesn't fall prey to all of the spurious crap, and then the application of it to people who are trying to consume. So some people want a lot of help and some people need a little direction. So the idea that a cafe or a dispensary, well, maybe you could plug them into the data, and that can be done in a kiosk because they just need a little bit of direction. Maybe an application that can stay with them and they can access information. A spa, very much an experience-based thing where we can take topicals and demonstrate how, in fact, to deploy topicals to get a result. And you don't have to make claims. That's the nice thing about this. The marijuana and cannabis do not conflict with the fact that you cannot make claims from the FDA, because if it works, you don't have to say anything. That's real nice. If I'm trying to get a headache medication passed that may or may not help your headache, then the FDA is very interested in whether or not it's going to kill somebody or affect them in an addiction, on an addiction model. Then you're probably pretty close, so you can make your claim. You can make your claim, not demonstrate your evidence. Very different. And so that's the nice part, is that the cannabis doesn't fall into an FDA model, because you don't have to make claims when something is functionally effective and is noticeable and measurably and has evidence behind it. So we don't have to wait for the FDA to do its thing, because it only deals with 1 or 2 substances at a time. And they experiment in Marinol and Sativex and Epidiolex and the other names for those, the Drobanols and things. They're proof that singularizing down to one of the cannabinoids is a pointless and waste of time. because nobody's getting unending migraines from smoking weed. So why would we want a migraine-laden pharmaceutical approach? Also, it's not the only way to do it. So if you did have to suffer migraines to get to some major benefit, then there is a conversation to be had, right? So like when somebody gets an injection, it hurts, it's scary, but on the other side of that injection, hopefully is some sort of level of health that you weren't getting. Hopefully. But the fact is that little pinch is what you have to suffer in order to be able to get that benefit. With cannabis, that's not the case. So that's pretty nice.